Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I'm your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We will give you real life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Brittany Vasile. Brittany is currently working for Carnival Cruise Line in their entertainment department, where she has worked for 5 years. Prior to working for Carnival Cruise Line, Brittany attended SUNY Brockport, where she received her bachelor's degree in criminal justice. You can find Brittany on LinkedIn by searching Brittany Vasile. Hello, Brittany. It's fantastic having you on the show. To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Brittany Vasile?
I would say success for me is more of an inner thing. Like, if you are happy with yourself, if you are happy where you are in life, then you're successful. I don't always believe it shows. Like, I don't have the most glamorous job. I don't have a lot of trinkets and cars and toys. But to me, I'm successful because I love my job and I love what I do. So I believe it's more of who you are and like how you achieve your success. So that's how I find success.
I think that's a key point too of sometimes it's very much internal and the things that make you happy. And that's what's most important at the end of the day. Brittany, you went to SUNY Brockport and got your criminal justice degree. What made you graduate with a criminal justice degree and instead of going down the path of, kind of solving crime and or like doing something with criminal justice, decide to go the avenue of working on a cruise ship?
So when I graduated, I looked at my options for criminal justice and I do still want to pursue it one day. I find more Carnival as right now just like my job and enjoying myself. But I realized with all the criminal justice jobs I can do, it sounds bad to say, but I feel like I'm going to be stuck once I get the job. Like, I won't be able to have 2, 3 months off where I get to travel the world, or I don't get to say like, oh, I was in Jamaica yesterday. And I really wanted to take the time to be able to travel and see things that I know a lot of people don't get to see in their lives or stuff like that before I started a professional career, I guess you can say. But I still do want to pursue something in criminal justice. But how I got started with Carnival was kind of a joke. I was just on a cruise and told somebody I wanted to apply, and they sent my application in. And I had an interview within 24 hours after I got off the ship.
Well, I think that one of the interesting things you brought up there is you wanted to do something before you did what you knew you were going to want to do long term. You wanted to experience things in life, things you can't do on a regular basis, have that schedule that gives you opportunities, and that would make you happy now and give you those experiences before you started a standard, 9 to 5, 5 days a week with limited. Some companies are more limited in what you could do, when you could go on vacation, things like that. And I think what you are doing is you're saying, hey, I want these experiences. I know life is going to start to happen and I'm probably not going to get them. So let me do it when I have the capability to do it.
Exactly. Like, I look at it like some people laugh because like I'm 20, almost I'm 26. I'm 27 now. And I like live at home and I live with my parents and my dog and everybody. And people are like, "Oh, like doesn't that bother you?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't I'm not home very often. I'm home 2 months every 6 to 8 months." And I get to like go places. Like, most of my friends, like some of them have never even been on a cruise or they've never been out of the country. And I'm like, for me, like I can imagine my life without it now. And still, like, I'm still thinking of like, oh, when I start this job, I'm not going to be able just to fly to Italy for a month if I have to. So for me, I'm still out there and I'm enjoying myself.
You just brought up a point of something people don't always think about when working on, for example, a cruise ship or something where people travel a lot and you kind of have to travel along with them, whether it could be a tour guide or something else. For you, what is the experience like, or what is the mentality like when you only do get to come home like every, like you said, 6 to 8 months and you're home for a short amount of time? What is that like in that transition back and forth?
Well, I would say everybody's experiences are different because I've met a lot of friends on the ship and they love going home. They love going, seeing their friends and everything. It's definitely more different for me because I moved to North Carolina 6 years ago, and I have been in college and on ships since I lived here. So for me, coming home, it's more of like a just to regather myself, my center. I go to yoga, just detox myself from the ship. And like I barely leave my house. Like I sleep so much. The first 2 weeks of being home from a ship, you can't even catch me out of my bed. Like, but some people's experiences are different. Like I know my friend, she goes home and she's out at the clubs that night. And I'm like, I'm in bed. I'm just trying to get myself back together and I just gotta like rejuvenate myself because it's a lot of work working on ships and you don't lose yourself, but you kind of get into like an autopilot towards the end of your contract. So when I come home, for me, it's more of I just need to gather my energy back together and prepare myself for what's coming next.
So let's dive into that a little deeper. A lot of people always ask, what is it like working on a cruise ship or in a place where everyone's on vacation? And it is very different on the other end of it, where it is your day to day. What is your day to day routine on the cruise ship? And how do you keep yourself centered? Like you said, centered is very important in keeping yourself healthy mentally and physically.
On cruise ships, it's hard. I will tell a lot of people this. Anybody who asks me about my job, I reply to them that it is not easy. And they ask, like, why? You just get to have fun and do all this. And I remind them that everybody on your ship is on vacation and you're there to make their vacation better. One thing goes wrong with their vacation, it doesn't even have to do with you. And they could have an attitude with you or something can come up with you. And you always have to remember it's their vacation. You're there to make their vacation. So on ships, like I was saying, you do can like an autopilot towards the end of your contract. And our contracts run from 4 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. Like you can stay on a ship up to 11 and a half months, I believe. And honestly, for me, this sounds so funny, but like my last ship, I was in Cozumel, Mexico, like every 4 days. So after I've seen it like 8 times, I sleep and sleep. Like I became a pro at a 10-minute nap. Like, oh, I have 15 minutes till my next event. I'm asleep for 10. It's a lot of sleep. It's a lot of reminding yourself that you're on a ship. Like, go out, get some sun. Like, there's a gym on board. There's a spa that we can use. There's all these things that sometimes you forget because you get so caught up in work. So for me, I became very lucky to meet friends who, if we're having a bad day, will go lay in the sun on like the promenade of the ship or something. Like we'll just lay in the sun for an hour, or we'll go to the gym together, or we'll even do yoga. It's very difficult to stay centered on ships because of all the factors that are getting thrown at you every single day. So it's just reminding yourself that they're on vacation, you're there to make their vacation better, but you're also on a ship. Like, relax, enjoy the ship, enjoy the sun. The job's fun, don't stress. But I sleep a lot. That's literally how I get through it. I sleep a lot.
Well, you have, kind of like you just said, personalities could one moment be one way, and then someone else walks up to you and something has happened, and you need to help them and realize it's not because of you, it's what's happening to them. And how do you kind of make sure that you always bring a positive attitude to everyone who comes to you, even though sometimes they might not be the happiest?
It's definitely hard. I'll say this. People ask why there's not many Americans on ships. Like out of the 1,500 crew members, there's probably 20 Americans. And I always remind them as, do you like being yelled at work all the time? And they say, no, I would never be able to do your job. So I always take everything with a grain of salt now. Like, I won't lie. I've been yelled at to the point where I've walked away and cried. But in the moment, like, they're really not trying to come at you. Like, they're upset by something you can't control. So for me, I just kind of smile and just kind of say, like, what can I do to make your experience better? Because I can't help with what they did, but what can I do to make your experience better? Because there's always something you can do, whether it's walk them to guest services and help them explain what is wrong, or help them go somewhere else, or sometimes they just want a little gold stick on the ship. Like, it all depends. Like, I always just ask that question: how can I help you? Because I can't control what just happened, but I can do something for you.
And I think that's a key point is understanding in the moment, it might not be the frustration of you, it's the situation they're in. And knowing that you could always help. There's always something you could be doing to solve a problem. And that's not just professionally or on a cruise ship, that could be personally in saying, what's the problem? And even if it's something small, what can I do to make this situation better? Brittany, being on a cruise ship, like you said, it's long contracts. You're not always with the same people or on the same cruise ship or on the same route. Every contract is different. How do you kind of get back into the groove coming back from a contract? Like you're going to be going on a contract very soon. And I mean, like literally by the time this episode airs, you will be on a cruise ship. So,
Yes.
how do you kind of transition back from being, as I say, on land to a cruise ship for an extended period of time and acclimating to the other employees and kind of everyone just finding their bearing in this new contract?
So I actually leave tomorrow, which is going to be Friday, whatever. I remember what date it is, the 13th or something. And it, I cheat now. I'll be honest. I cheat. My first contract, I went in knowing nobody. And I got very lucky that my roommate signed on the same day as me. And we were both first contracts and we both knew nobody. So we became like twins. Like, you saw her, you saw me. Like, we were inseparable. And then after a couple of contracts, you start to realize the cruise world is small. And I cheat now by like, I'll go on our like cruise group chats that we have and be like, so, like, I'll be on the Carnival Magic. I'll be like, oh, who's on the Carnival Magic? And people will be messaging, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're there. Thank goodness. I know somebody. And then I realize I know like 20 people on the ship already. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Because it's very hard signing on your first day, because some people think you sign on, you get training, you go through all these trainings for your job, which now they're starting to work towards that. But when I first got there, it was you got on the ship at 1 and you started work at 2. Like, you were on the train and you were just going for the ride. And it's very difficult, like, especially like I got lost for almost 5 months my first contract, and I was only on there 6 months. So it's hard going to a ship where you don't know anybody. It's definitely nice sometimes though, because you feel like you get a fresh start. You're meeting fresh new faces. Maybe the person that you know on the ship wasn't your best friend last contract, so you're worried about that. But I feel like every ship is a fresh start. Like, no matter if you know people, no matter anything, like, you can get on a ship and look at that person and be like, hey, we're gonna be friends this contract. Like, new start, let's go. So I look at ships like that. Like, I'm literally going Saturday, I joined the ship and I know like 8 people on that ship already. And I'm just like so excited because a lot of them are my friends. And I'm like, this is gonna be fun.
Mhm.
I'm excited.
And I think one interesting aspect you brought up, there was a few in there, but is the ability to say it's a fresh start. We've had the time and it's also you've been in an experience that not many people in the world go through of working on cruises prior. So you're all kind of in it together. You're like, this contract, we're all here together. No one else will know the experience that we've had these past 6 months. Kind of like, let's go in and start over and just have these experiences together. How have you dealt? And it's also interesting. Let me pause for a second. It's interesting because when you're describing this, it kind of reminds me of when you go off to college. But you have basically kind of go off to college every contract. You're leaving home, you're going, it's a fresh start. You could be nervous, you don't know many people. How have you kind of acclimated with the idea of it's that environment, that similar environment?
So we literally call cruise ships college. Like my first thing when I joined the ship was I joined and this front squad I was talking to, they were like, yeah, listen, this is college. There's drama like college. There's everything like college. And I was like, oh, great, great. But it's like all the good aspects about college. And it's so fun. Like we do get crew parties now. So they do like let the crew relax and you get to go out and like sometimes they're in the nightclub, sometimes they're up at Serenity Deck, which is like an open deck. And we actually get to hang out with each other. And it's literally like college. Like sometimes there's like little tiffs between people and everybody knows. It's like the funniest thing. Like you're gonna be like, hey, they're not liking each other today. It's so funny. Like it literally feels like college half the time. And the one thing about cruise ships is my department is entertainment. We all have big personalities. Like it's like putting the drama club all in one little tiny room for 6 months. We are dramatic. We are loud. We are crazy. It's just, you never know what you're going to get. And it's so funny.
How do you just brought up sometimes people have tips, and there's not many places you can go because, especially when working on a cruise ship and always having get or majority of time having guests on board, you can't show those riffs in front of the guests. When you've noticed individuals kind of getting those riffs and getting into arguments, how do you go from, okay, I'm not liking you, or we've had a fight, we're no longer really communicating, but in front of the guests acting very professional and like nothing ever happened?
Well, I think it's that you have to remember you're there for your job. You're not there to make best friends. You're not there to meet the love of your life. You're not, if those things happen, good, but you're not there for that. You're there for your job. So one of my favorite cruise directors once said, like, you can be crying in your cabin, you can be upset with each other, you can be screaming at each other, but the second you walk outside, those guests are your first priority. And everybody on cruise ships has to remember that. Like, you can't get in an argument with somebody and walk out and have an attitude in front of the guests. They didn't deserve that. That has nothing to do with them. So you're there for work and work first. No matter how much you want to punch a roommate or something, the guests will come first. And if you have to, be best friends in front of those guests and then don't even talk to each other ever again after. Like that's actually like that's happened. I've had crew members that hate each other but do an event together and are amazing and then just walk off and don't speak.
How do you handle, as you said, you're in the entertainment department? What does that look like on a cruise ship? And does your role change throughout the day, throughout the week? Like, what could you kind of be thrown into that people don't know that it's not your typical, you get a role and that's what you're doing all the time?
So our entertainment department It is run by the entertainment director. Now he is the head of all entertainment. He Under him is the cruise director, and then the youth director, and the playlist cast manager, and then the ETM, which is our technical manager. So they're all under the entertainment director. Now, each of them have their own team. So my supervisor is the cruise director because I am part of the fun squad, which is entertainment. So we usually do, if you go on a Carnival cruise ship and you see the fun squad, you know what we do: trivias, deck parties, bingo, karaoke. Basically anything that has a microphone is cruise director and fun squad. And then you have the playlist cast manager. Under the playlist cast manager is our playlist cast, which they do the shows. So you will not see me in the shows, and you don't want to see that. But you'll have your playlist cast, and normally on the ship I'm going to, there's 4 singers and 4 dancers, 2 guys, 2 girls for each. And each ship is different. Some have 6, some have 11 now, some have a whole bunch. Then you have the technical team, which the technical team you don't see much of, but they work their butts off. They are probably the backbone of the entertainment department because my microphone wouldn't work without them. And so you have the entertainment technical team that works backstage on all the shows. They do all the broadcasting, everything on board. And then you have the youth department, which is Camp Ocean, which is our daycare center, basically, kids club and camp and everything for the kids. You will not see me up there either. And you will not see me being attacked. You don't want that. I can't even get the karaoke machine to work half the time. But those are the entertainment department. And like, if you ever go on a ship and you see Fun Squad, you'll know like, oh, they do all these things. And then if you see the cast also does dance classes, which are amazing. I participated in one. I just gotta say I'm pretty good.
How have you handled, what does a day in your off time look like? Like, how often does cast get a day off? What typically do they get to do on a day off? Because it's not always you could just like leave and venture and then come back anytime you want.
So how days off work is my job, Fun Squad, we don't get days off. We work 7 days a week, all hours, but it just depends. So we get time off. So when I get you off the ship at 8 in the morning, I have from when y'all get off until y'all get back on, I have off. Now, depending on the day, sometimes it'll be gym, sunbathing, movies, sleep, or sometimes I will go out for that entire time. Like sometimes our cruise directors will take us out and we'll do excursions. Like we'll go swim with dolphins for team bonding and stuff like that. So you do get to go out and have fun. My job is definitely more limited because we do have to be back on board certain times. Sometimes we have events. Ships have something called port manning, and that means a certain amount of crew members have to be on board in case of an emergency. So if you are port manning, you cannot get off the ship at all for those 7 days. And those days are sleeping. Those 7 days, normally you're something called host on duty, which means you do all the trivias all day and then you're done at like 5 o'clock. I'm in bed. The playlist cast, they get 24 hours off every 7 days. So my last ship, it worked out that like every Wednesday they had off. So instead of doing a playlist production show, it's the cruise director's night on stage where the cruise director hosts his shows. So the cast gets 24 hours off in 7 days. And some other departments also get days off. I'm not 100% sure on those departments, but I know in my department, the cast is really the only ones that get 24 hours off. And the singers and like the band and everything, anybody who stresses their vocals usually get 24 hours off.
And I think that's one of the key things you had brought up in, I think, a very interesting and telling experience of, hey, listen, it's not your typical, you get a Friday, Saturday time off. Depending what your job is, you might get like 2 hours off. Who knows? But I think one of the important things you brought up there, besides understanding what it really is day in and day out of the amount of time and effort and, being on in front of people that you have to do is that you do still get the time to reset. You still have team bonding. So you still get, I think that's really important in being able to communicate with each other effectively is not just being set in the work environment together, kind of having that time to regroup. What has it been like for you to, as you said, and I forget the exact term, but the person who has to man for 7 days in case an emergency happened? Have you ever been in that role? And has there ever been an experience for you where you've kind of had to step in because something is happening and people don't know what and like how do you handle that?
So port manning, everybody has to do. If you're lucky, if you're a cruise talk, you know what a K position is, which means you're basically the cruise director's backup and you don't have to do port manning. It means that if a certain amount of people get off, you have to stay on. But I haven't been lucky enough to be that. So how port manning goes is you get a letter and you basically there's 8 letters, I think, and you do port manning once every 8 weeks. So it's not terrible. I actually really like port manning or host on duty because you wake up at like 8 and you start at like 9:30, 10, and you're done at 5. It feels like a normal job, but it's nice because those days you're kind of isolated from your team. So if you want to regather yourself or if you're tired of your team, which happens, we work in a very small work environment. We see each other every day and you just want to be alone, like host on duty is the best. You're done at 5, you get to sleep, you get the nights off sometimes, and it's great. Now, I personally haven't had a port manning issue, but some people might remember the Carnival Freedom last year. Our whale tail funnel caught fire. That went from that was a very big emergency and a very big wake up call that to us because not that we don't take port manning seriously. For us, like you just don't think about that. You're like, oh, I'm port manning. Like I'm gonna go sleep. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do laundry today. It's not. Oh my gosh, like I need to be on my toes. And I I don't know anybody who was on the Freedom during the funnel situation. But in case you don't know, our funnel, which is basically the exhaust from our engines, it caught fire and they had to evacuate the ship, but they were in port, which was great. So they just evacuated the ship from the, I guess, deck zero. And they got everybody safely. They put the fire out and everything. And they end up sending another ship to come pick the guests up. They got to chill in Grand Turk. Kind of jealous about that. They got to chill in Grand Turk for a couple days. And so things do happen. Like I remember this is funny, my first contract, I was about to sign off the ship and it was the last sea day. And I just did 8.5 months on that, my first contract. And I was like, I'm so tired. I'm so excited. And it was the last sea day. I just finished work and the alarm goes off for an alpha code, which is fire. And that could be anything. Like it could be like something smoking, like anything that puts out smoke could cause an alpha code. And I just hear the alarm go off. I remember I was in bed and I just went, no, please no. I was like, I remember messaging my mom and I was like, I just want to make it home. It turns out there was just like smoke coming out of one of the lights or something. I can't remember, but I remember they did the alarm and I was like, I go home tomorrow, please.
I want to dive into a little bit. You talk about communicating with your mom just now. How do you stay in touch when you're out in kind of wherever your contract brings you, as I would say, back home with your family, with your friends? How often do you get to talk to them? What is that communication like? And what do you have to kind of explain to your friends about, hey, I'm not always going to be available and how that works? And how do you try to ease them into like, this is my life? Like, I'm sorry.
So I'm one of the people that I have internet every day on the ship. So we do have to pay for social Wi-Fi. Carnival has actually been amazing recently. They came out with like a $1 WhatsApp plan that you can get daily, and it's just WhatsApp only. And so we do use WhatsApp a lot on the ship. But I get the social plan. So normally I use WhatsApp, Instagram, or Facebook Messenger. Um, Sometimes randomly FaceTime works. I really don't know. Like sometimes it'll say unavailable, sometimes it'll be surprised, your mom's calling. Um, for me, I use WhatsApp a lot, and sometimes my dad or my mom will use Messenger or WhatsApp. It's always a surprise. I never know when they're going to message me. But our social package is $4 a day, I believe. I don't remember. But that's normally what I buy every time. And I thrive. Like you will not catch me without internet because I'll learn how the day I don't have internet is the day I learn to sew. Like it's just important for me to stay in touch with home as I am an only child and I didn't buy internet my first contract for a couple days and I thought my mom was going to come on the ship and bring me home by the ear. So I buy internet because my parents do worry about me a lot. So I keep in touch with them a lot. I keep my friends updated sometimes what I'm doing. It's nice. Carnival has been really good with the internet packages, especially when COVID hit. They gave us all free internet, talk to our families. It was great.
And I think that's a key point in, that's how you stay centered. That's how the internet for you is important because you need that communication back home and that capability to know that when you want to touch base with family or friends, you have the ability to do that. And I think another key takeaway there is that your employers understand what you need and make it accessible. They don't overcharge you. They make it a ability to be reasonable because they understand that these long contracts, you can get homesick, you can, need that touch of, your I don't want to say your safety net, but your group of people that keep
Yeah.
you, who you are because they do want you at your best. And I think that's really great of Carnival to do is give you guys the ability to whether it's stay in contact or home or have the ability to use some of the amenities so that you can stay mentally and physically the best you can throughout your whole contract. When you get off a contract and now you've made these friends and you kind of have this life and routine set up, how do you keep in contact with your friends, especially when you guys are going all over the place?
Um, WhatsApp. We live off WhatsApp and Messenger and Instagram. Actually, today, my best friend from my last contract on the Carnival Breeze, we called each other for like an hour. And you become really close with people. Like, her and I end up being roommates, and I'm invited to her wedding. Like, she is one of the best people I've met. Like, we were talking today, like, that we need to get together once a year at least. Like, my first roommate, she actually just lives in Georgia. So whenever for Easter she came up and we still keep in touch every day. Like I keep in touch with a lot of people from the contracts and I actually went to Serbia to see some of my friends when a couple of years ago and basically WhatsApp and anything. Like it's so crazy to say like, oh, I can fly to Italy and just like message somebody like, hey, I'm in Italy and then be like, oh, let's go get food. I'm only an hour away.
What is that like? I talk about your friends become your network and you could build a community. For you, it's like building a world, not just a community, because people everywhere. And people come from all over the world to work on cruises. For you, what is it like having the ability to say, yeah, my network isn't, right in, for example, New Jersey, Connecticut, the Northeast, or this part of the United States. I have contacts everywhere, and there are people who do so many different jobs that I can talk to about different things. What is that like for you?
Honestly, it's crazy to think like that because, like, to me, they're just all my friends. Like, I would fly to England tomorrow to see my best friend. Like, it's the craziest thing to even think like that because it's been 4 years of making friends from around the world. It's like, to me at this point, they're just like, oh, they're just my best friends. Like, I'm just gonna go to Australia and see one of my friends, Samantha. And like, I never thought of it like that. I just think of it as like, oh, they're just my friends. I don't know. I'm just gonna go here and see them.
Brittany, what is it like? We talk about, you having your network and your friends all over the world. And there's many different cultures that come into play when people from all over the world and different experiences as well when they come together. What is it like, you know, having different cultures and different expectations and mindsets and having everyone come together and working together and understanding everyone's different cultures?
So the culture difference is pretty wild, actually. So Carnival does an amazing job of giving trainings sometimes. Like, every time you go on a ship, you do a culture training to understand that not everybody thinks like you, not every culture is the same. You need to understand this. And honestly, like, there are some differences that you can be talking to somebody and not completely understand each other at all. And you're just like, this isn't going well. We need to figure this out. And one of the things is a language barrier also, because it's not really culture differences, because yes, there are some, um, but also language barriers. Like, Carnival makes it so you have to speak English to join the ships, but you have to pass a certain level. And when the new contracts come from different countries, like, my friend is from Italy. And I remember the first time I met him, I said, I host trivias. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, trivia? Like, read questions and answer trivias. And he's like, I don't know. I was like, oh no. And so there are a lot of cultural differences. Carnival does amazing. Like, I don't know how other companies are, but Carnival does, we celebrate every single holiday. Like, I remember it was a holiday in the Philippines, and I walked into like our crew bar, and it was all decorated. They were all dressed up, so cute. They were doing our makeup. Like, they were doing everything to make them feel at home. I remember there was also a an Indonesian holiday, and they have like certain foods for them, certain cakes. Like, Carnival is amazing with teaching you about everybody's culture and to respect their culture. So I really appreciate it because there's a lot of things that I didn't know about, like a lot of cultures that to this day I'm like still celebrating these with people I know. And it's great. There are a lot of culture differences though that your first contract, you're like, oh, I didn't know that.
And I think that's an important part of, a community environment. I think that's great. And a lot of companies should do that, is understanding people have different cultures, religions, and understanding even the small thing of just recognizing someone's religion and what they practice or what holidays they observe is really important too, for everyone to feel, in a safe environment, to feel recognized, to feel valued. So that's great of Carnival. How has it been for you getting to learn and experience these different holidays as they happen? And what has that changed in your mindset as well?
So it's been wild, actually. It's been very fun. Like, I remember the first time I went to, it was an Indian holiday. I can't remember what it was, but they end up having like this crew party. And I remember all, like, not all the Indians, but predominantly the Indians of the company, and a lot of other people were joining, and they were just doing this whole dance to this song. And I was the first contract, and I was sitting back like, is this something I'm supposed to know? Like, is this an everyday thing? And then I remember getting pulled over by one of them, and them literally teaching us the steps. Like me and my first roommate, we had no idea. They were literally teaching us the steps to this dance. And like looking back now, like I've never had that experience in like I call it land job. But like I would never have had that experience. I've never got to know what that holiday was. I've never got to learn that dance. I've never spent an hour dancing on the dance floor doing that dance. Like it's been so fun learning about everybody's different cultures, how they celebrate holidays, how they celebrate weddings and everything. Like it's been really fun.
How has that changed, not just your viewpoint on everyone's different backgrounds and perspectives, religions, stuff like that, but your understanding of different cultures? Through those experiences, how have you been able to kind of immerse yourself and understand different cultures and take that with you along the way?
I think it's not just understanding, because sometimes you don't understand everything. Like you can be
Mhm.
like, why? It's respecting their culture and understanding that they're going to do it because that's their culture and you have to respect that. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned about culture is just to respect it. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, what is that? And I'm like, no, like I respect you doing that. Like, yes, you wear that. You look amazing. Like, that's the biggest thing I would say is not even understanding it, just respecting culture. That's the biggest thing I've learned is I respect everybody's culture so much. At this point, I look past everything. I just respect everybody as people at this point. I don't even think like, oh, they're from a different country. Oh, they're from this. Their culture's different than mine. Like, no, they're still people. I respect everything about that person now. And it's been a very big learning experience.
And I think that is such an important, like, if there's one thing I think speaks volumes and should be a highlight key takeaway today is you don't have to understand someone's culture. You have to respect it and respect everyone as individuals. And I think that's so powerful to say, you know what? That's your culture. Those are your beliefs. I respect you for having them. I don't have to understand them. You don't also have to agree with everything, but respecting the individual for who they are and seeing past everything else and seeing everyone as a human being is very important. So I think that, like you said, it was a great learning experience for you. And you continue to get to learn and experience and understand individuals on different layers. How has your experiences with individuals and learning about, different environments and everything else put yourself in a different perspective and helped you grow as an individual?
I would say, oh, well, I'll go with my job. So, as entertainment, we're all loud, we're all woohoo. But I remember my first contract, there was a team member and they would just laugh, like would yell at you. But that wasn't them yelling. That's how they talk. That's their culture. That is everything they do at home. And I think that was like wild to me was, oh, they're not yelling at me. That's who they are. And the more people I met from their culture, it made more sense. Like, okay, I understand this. So one thing you do learn is definitely like cultures definitely bring out people. Like I can't even explain it. Like some cultures they speak very loudly, some speak with their hands, some speak with this, and you see it in every single person from their culture. And that has been like the craziest thing for me is like I'll meet somebody and I'm like, they're really quiet. And then 3 minutes later I'm like, never mind. I could tell you where they're from.
How have you brought those experience and applied them or try to, I don't want to say open your family or friends' eyes, but try to, teach them as well through your own experiences and the knowledge you've gained through these unique experiences of working on a cruise ship for 5 years?
So I would say like for me, working on a cruise ship has I can't even explain it. Like I wasn't a shy person. I was always talkative, but if you put me in front of a class to do a presentation, I would sweat. Like, I'd cry before. And now I host trivias in front of hundreds of people. Like, I would never have imagined ever doing this. So for me, carnivals brought me out of my shell more than I could imagine. And I am growing as a person still every single day thanks to that company. Whether it's culturally, whether it's with goals, whether it's who I am growing every single day by people I meet, by all my experiences. Now, coming home, it's just made me more of like understanding to people, I guess you can say. Because of my job, it's all hospitality, all, "Hi, how are you? I hope you have a great day." Like, all down to earth, like, you have to be yourself or people are gonna realize it. And it's really made me like, I come home and I catch myself walking into Walmart and being like, "How are y'all today? Have a great day." And I'm like, "I'm not even a greeter here." But it's brought me out a lot and I bring it home with me all the time. And I would say my parents notice it, like, if I see somebody by themselves, I'll just go talk to them now. Or if I notice something's off, I'll just go to talk to somebody. My parents are like, "Who are you?" And for my friends, like, I'll admit it's hard because all my friends live in different states now or different countries. So I'm actually lucky that all of my friends have open minds, open horizons, open everything. Like, I can go 2, 3 years without talking to one of my friends and we call each other and it's literally like we haven't missed a beat. Like, here's my life. Cool. See you next year.
Brittany, what has been the biggest struggle, but also the biggest reward for you through your time of working in all these different experiences?
Breaking out of my shell. Um, I used to be terrified to hold a microphone. Like, I remember my one cruise director, oh, I loved him. He would literally be like, "Britt, you're doing this today." And I'd be like, "No, I'm not. I don't know how to do that." And he'd be like, "Good, you don't know how to do it, so you're gonna learn it today." And I remember I used to be so scared. And I would go do something once and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, how was I so scared of that?" Like, come on. And it's definitely been breaking out of my shell has been the scariest thing for me. Like, I remember I had to host one thing and it was scripted and I cried all night reading it. It was like 7 lines and I cried all night. My roommate was like, "It's 7 lines." And I was like, "But I will never remember it." And it's been more realizing nobody cares. Like, just go out and have fun and just if you mess up, be like, "Oh, well, that's not the line." And then somebody else will feel off that vibe. And that has been like the biggest struggle for me is realizing that perfection isn't perfection. It's enjoying yourself and people are going to feed off you. And opening up myself was definitely the biggest struggle.
And I think that's such a key takeaway is perfection isn't perfection. It's who you are. And when you are authentic to yourself, people will feel that. People will feel more comfortable. They'll open up and you open up as well because those stress, those nerves get taken away and you get to experience and broaden those horizons. Brittany, what is something that if you could tell an individual about who's interested in going cruises and working on cruise ships or something that people want to think about that you would want individuals to know, what would that be?
Um, well, it depends. So as a guest, if you're coming on my ship as a guest, I want you to remember that I'm there to make your vacation better. We aren't there to sabotage you or to make your life miserable or any of that. We're there to make it better. We want to have fun with you. We want you to enjoy. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, some people think like they come on a ship and we're there to sabotage them or set them up because they didn't win a trivia. Like, no, I'm here to like make your vacation a vacation. I want to have just as much fun as you do. And those are the best cruises. Like, when the guests are having fun and you're having fun and just the whole environment is great. That's like my number one thing I would say to guests is remember we're there to make your vacation a vacation. Enjoy yourself. And as a crew member, For people who want to work on cruise ships, definitely remember it's not as luxurious as it seems. There are things that happen. There are things that go wrong. It's a job. It's not a vacation. It's a job. You're there to work. You're not there to party or go out in Aruba for 8 hours. It's a job. I mean, I'm going out in Aruba definitely, but it's a job. Like, go into the mindset of this is my job, not I'm getting off on Aruba. Bye. Like, it's still your job. Definitely that's all I can say to crew members is remember it's your job. Like, have the time of your life at your job. That's the best part of my job is I literally mess around on a microphone for hours. Like, when I do host on duty, I just talk to these guests. Like, I tell them stories about, like, I jokingly tell them how, like, my mom gave me penicillin when I was little and she tried to kill me. Like, I tell all these guests my life story and they love it. Like, and it makes me so happy. Like, just enjoy yourself. It's so fun. Our job is not difficult. It's fun. Like, only the person makes it difficult. So just enjoy.
And I think that's so important in no matter what you do, is just enjoy the moment, enjoy what you're doing, enjoy the task itself. Because when you enjoy it, you'll get more benefit out of it than just being like, ugh, I have to do this today. Just be like, even if you don't want to do it, just be like, okay, I'll do it. How can I make it fun and how can I make it
Yeah,
enjoyable for myself?
exactly. One of the things my cruise director says is my favorite cruise director is my favorite. We weren't allowed to call him a supervisor or boss. He was a queen. He was my favorite. And one thing he said to me is if you look at the schedule and you say, oh, I have to do this today, look at it again and say, no, I get to do this today. This is going to be my event. I get to do this. And ever since he said that, I'll see something on my schedule and I'm like, 4 hours of karaoke. And I'm like, no, that's 4 hours of karaoke. That's 4 hours. I get to listen to guests sing their hearts out, good or bad. And it's fun. Like, I'm not going to look at it like, oh, karaoke. It's going to be, no, we're going to have a time at karaoke. I don't care.
And I think that's so important is kind of like you were just saying, and I think it's so pivotal to how you can view things. It's just like your supervisor was telling you, shift your mindset, reread it with a different tone, think about it in a different way, and it could change your perspective on the day, your perspective on the task. And I think that's so important. And it's so great that he kind of instills in everyone is listen, if you look at it differently, you could get a different outcome, even though it's the same task, but
Yeah.
it could turn out totally differently. Brittany, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
So I have, you mentioned my LinkedIn earlier. It's just Brittany Vasile. I have Facebook. Just look me up, Brittany Vasile. Instagram. I want to say it's Brit Vasile
It
with
is.
a little, yeah,
You
I
got
don't know what it is.
you
Yes,
got
I was cut it too long. It's just Brittany Vasile on Instagram also. Add me. Don't be afraid to message me if you have any questions. I have people message me all the time. Like, how'd you get this job? How do you like it? Where are you going next? Like, message me. I love to talk about my job. Come cruise with me. Enjoy it. Like,
Thank you, Brittany, for all of your insight today. A few key takeaways from today's conversation is at the end of the day, it is about the client and knowing you are there to make their experience and make them happy and have a pleasant time. Another one is there's always something you can do. When you look at a problem, say, what can I do to make it better? Even if it's something small and or you don't know how to fix the whole thing. What is the one point you can start at to make a solution instead of being part of the problem? As well as culture training is so important and understanding language barriers and understanding that being different is very much okay, but respect it. Respect individuals who have different perspectives, languages, cultures, it all, and welcome it because you can learn a lot as well as stepping into a new environment can make you grow as an individual in ways you can never imagine. You can change your outlook on things. You can end up trying new things and really enjoying it. And the last thing, and I think it was so key of what Brittany has said today, is perfection isn't perfection. It is how you view it. It can be your inner light, how you experience it, and how you put it out into the world can be the beauty in itself. This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, Brittany Vasile. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.